My name is Sasha Hamlin, and welcome to the fourth week of our Bible study methods, our discussion group. As it goes per week, we are looking at church organization, the last few chapters and commentaries of our book for our class. So, our prompt this week was a little lengthy, it had several parts to it. But I am going to make this video in order to supplement the text that I had provided in the discussion group. So the one thing I'm going to tackle specifically is the problem on page 211, problem number 79. It does say to post an analysis, just pretty much using the information we've received from our resource in order to guide us through finding the answer and supporting those. So we will discuss for the problem on page 211, number 79. In 1 Timothy 2:12, Paul says that he does not allow a woman to teach or have authority over men. Using the model presented in this chapter, discuss these questions. What's the meaning of this text for Timothy? 1, the meaning. 2, the application it should have for us today. And then 3, what implications does your view have for a female Sunday school teacher, female hospital chaplains, female seminary teachers, female pastors, or female missionaries? So there's 3 questions. What is the meaning of this passage for Timothy? We're looking at passage scripture 1 Timothy 2:12. What is the current application, and then what is my personal view? So this is pretty quick. I actually had come across this TikTok snippet, social media, several days ago, maybe last week or so, with Cliff Nettle, and hopefully I'm pronouncing his name right, pastor at Grace Community Church in New Canaan. Very popular. It does well evangelically, does phenomenal in apologetics, and it has been going on it for a very long time. And so I think this link that I'm going to provide in the discussion group, I'm obviously can't provide that here in this video, but this link really addresses this particular passage and hits the nail right on the head for me. For anyone who hasn't viewed it or doesn't have access to it, I decided to write down some interrogatives, the who, the where, the why for this passage as I received this information from this video, this resource. So Pastor Cliff is actually addressing 1 Timothy 2, 9 through 16, whereas we were asked to address just 12. So he does cover a lot. For the most part, we need to take the who. So the who is Paul writing to Timothy. That's the who. And the reason why that's important is because 1 Timothy, 2 Timothy, they're a part of the pastoral epistles. So what that means is they're letters, but these letters are governing what a church body should do, how Timothy should behave. So a lot of principles, morals, expectations for the Christian faith, for the new church, or the only true church, but at the time, I should say. So that's the who. And that's very important contextually because then we have the where. And again, Pastor Cliff touches upon this very, very specifically. And what we find is Timothy is in Ephesus. So the historical background is Ephesus is not Christian aware. They're not a saved people. They are still worshiping, having pagan rituals. They're still going through pantheism and those other things that have yet to be addressed. And so Timothy is getting this guidance from Paul. So this passage is really addressing what it is Timothy needs to do where he is. Obviously, the statement may not have been necessary if Timothy was in another part of the world at a different time. So the why. So again, we're asked to address that Paul says he does not allow women to teach or have authority over men. So Also within this passage, within this chapter 2, Pastor Cliff does touch upon other statements that are made. And one of those statements is in regards to sexual fidelity and childbearing. In which case, where Timothy is, sex and gender in the current area is not like that of Christian principles. So, the Christian culture that Paul is cultivating is one that's saying sex within marriage, monogamy, but having a faith-centered family household where women can have babies and endure childbearing in faith is a blessing and brings that salvation within the family. And then the second comment also was touched upon the dressing and modesty of women. Again, Timothy is not in a modest place. He is not amongst like-minded Christians. So if you can imagine, you are a painter and you go into a house and not only are there no walls, but these people don't even like the color you're painting with. So he has to work on the infrastructure of the church. He has to work on himself. He has to be culturally aware, but he has to remain focused and receive that spiritual guidance. And that's, again, what Paul is writing in part, because obviously this is First Timothy and not Second Timothy. So as I continue, there is a remark made regarding modesty, basically saying materialism, the things of the world, how you present yourself, how you ornament yourself, is not necessary. And to supplement that, we can look at 1 Corinthians 12:23. The Lord looks at the heart and not with the outward appearance. Again, in 1 John 2:16, and you can go on and find modesty to be alongside being humble. Do not be flashy. Do not be perverse in that the way you present yourself. Do not allow that flashy perversion to lead to pride. So modesty also is a key component to this chapter, to First Timothy chapter 2, 9 through 16. Again, we are looking at 1 Timothy 2:12. But more specifically, Paul says that he does not allow women to teach or have authority over men. Same context here, again, moving forward. We do know, and I've mentioned this in the past, I've tried to explain this in a manner that frustrates me, but also a manner that is just really sad, because I think that this component of scripture in the New Testament is often mistreated and overlooked. So it is said, again, that Paul does not allow a woman to teach or have authority over men. He is saying this to Timothy, again, in a place where in Ephesus, we're not seeing a lot of gender diversity with cultural roles. And the reason being is because education is limited to women. And that's not an oppressive statement. That is historically accurate statement. So we can just take that and recognize it for where it is, because as it states now, currently, that statement is just more of an overview of why I believe having historical and biblical background and context is important. So Jewish women can't teach, but the statement more or less says, if you're not an educated person and an educated woman, you should not be speaking. I support that, because I don't want anyone uneducated. I don't want anyone who's not humble. I prefer just a humble spirit, a knowledgeable character to lead me regardless of gender. I don't care. As a matter of fact, I find that this problem also is being brought forth in our time, that is now being combated with favoritism of age and favoritism of generation. So it's good to look older, but are you older? It's good to kind of play the part, but be the part is different. And the reason why I say that specifically is because where Timothy is, he, like Christ, had to be amongst sinners and not allow sin to afflict him. Um, and so this letter covers a lot of common sense in a historical way. And people currently would like to use that phrase out of context to usurp a woman's statement or position in a church, or to really just seem dogmatic and maybe even a little sexist towards a woman who is confident, or pursuing a position, or it's just they might just feel threatened. It happens all the time. It's sad. That's my original position, is that it's sad when it's taken out of biblical context. But we're also missing the bigger picture. Um, we are looking at something that was written for someone, um, for a Christian foundation, for a Christian church at the time. Now, the good news is we actually see very young youth pastors of both genders. We see very young, I would like to say, members of the church who have been members of the church for several years, and just following Christ and spreading the word. And again, we are commissioned to do so. Um, Matthew 28:18, when we are given the Great Commission, um, it doesn't limit who needs to spread the word or baptize or be evangelical. As a matter of fact, that's an all-encompassing. Once you're a believer of Christ, in my opinion, um, you hopefully in all your prayers and all your guidance have the ability to do just that, to fulfill the Great Commission, and to have gender be a hindrance or even a focus, even if it's not a hindrance or positive or negative, for it to be a focus, for me, is a waste of time. At least now. Back then, very important. You have a lot going on. You have the apostles are all over the place. They're dying off. They're being martyred. You're really looking at an early foundation of the Christian faith. So that's not where we are currently. So to answer the third point, um, and maybe even the second one, but what implications does your view have for these female positions, teachers, chaplains in hospitals? My view is just that. I'm more concerned about the character. I'm more concerned um, about the knowledge and life application. It is great. I'm pretty sure we've all come across this. We'll look at somebody, we'll empathize with them, we'll have like-minded um, dialogues, we'll have like-minded lives, and then we get into the deeper background of who this person is and where they're from, and there's nothing. There's absolutely nothing, but it's so fulfilling that this person is in their position, willing, with the knowledge that they have, to support us, and that is good. The downside of that is when you have to remain um, concrete with what you're skilled in and your background, then you don't really have much life experience to fall under. So again, when it comes to educating other people, educating men, to teach men to have authority over men, to teach and to have authority, again, two different words there. I'm not going to get into semantics, but for the sake of trying to keep my video short, hopefully I answered all three of those key points as it relates to 1 Timothy chapter 2, verse 12. The implications for Timothy is to hold your ground, have this spiritual wellness, have this church organization because of that time. And again, I did comment on Pastor Cliff from Grace Community College, New Canaan, Connecticut. I did put that link in the discussion thread for you. And then, of course, just touching on the common applications and implications from my view. So thank you. I do apologize. Again, I try to keep my videos under 15 minutes. I do have several paragraphs to go with the video. If there's any questions, reach out to me and I appreciate you. Stay blessed.